Welcome to Real Dudes. I'm Trevor Gill.
And I'm Shaun Friedrichsen.
We've been trying to get schedules aligned to do this show for about 2 weeks now, so we apologize for the delay. But in accordance with the holiday, Halloween, our first show is going to be on horror movies and what our favorite ones and so forth as that goes. We were talking earlier about whether we prefer originals, sequels, remakes, or what have you. Now, what's one horror movie, let's say, series that you've seen?
All right, so I have to say that, honestly, I started off on horror when I was a kid.
As did I.
I didn't get into the Disney movies or anything like that. I couldn't go for it. It was too sappy. So I started off on Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think that's my running favorite.
The one with Johnny Depp?
Yes. Seeing him get sucked into a bed and thousands of gallons of blood just shooting from that bed. It was an interesting scene, the way that was shot.
Now, did you see, I'm sure you saw at least one or two of the 15 bajillion sequels that were shot for that series?
I think it was like 15 Gogolplex was the number of sequels to that. But, I've seen quite a few of them, and I honestly, I don't know, the original one was my favorite.
Now, Nightmare on Elm Street, have they actually done a complete remake of the original movie yet, or have they all been sequels?
They have done a complete remake of the original film. I believe that one came out in 2010 or 11, something like that. And it just wasn't that great, honestly. I wasn't as impressed with it.
See, I haven't. There's tons of horror movies, like your lesser known ones, The Hills Have Eyes, and ones like that came out recently that most people don't realize were movies back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And if you go back and watch those originals, 90% of the time the originals are so much better.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, yeah, I would completely agree with that.
And as we were talking before, too, the only ones that we both agreed on that we enjoyed the remakes better were the Halloween ones that were directed by Rob Zombie.
Exactly. The way that Rob Zombie shot those films made it a ton more interesting, I think.
Well, he made it so you could read, I don't want to, it sounds weird, but so you could relate to him more as opposed to just all of a sudden he's just some psycho killer guy.
Right, there's more of a backstory, which I think a lot of horror stories are missing. I know, going back to Nightmare on Elm Street, that they had touched on some of Freddy Krueger's backstory, but it was very minimal.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think each sequel came out and it showed a little bit more, or it would change something from the previous one that you weren't supposed to remember that was in that one about his backstory. And the same was kind of true with the Friday the 13th series, too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think it got to the point where they just forgot where the original story started from.
Right, and I mean, a lot of people don't even realize that in the first movie, all right, this is going to be like a spoiler alert thing.
Can it be a spoiler when the movie's like 30 years old?
It shouldn't be, but you'd be surprised.
True.
It was the mom who was killed. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Jason himself. In fact, Jason wasn't seen throughout the whole entire movie until the very end, just jumping out of a lake. Because
wasn't it the mom was killing the counselors because she blamed them for not saving him when he drowned in the lake? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there are so many things that people don't realize that are associated with these, I guess you would say, cult films.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Everybody's seen them or at least knows about them, but they just don't know everything about them, which I guess I don't know everything either. But
well, a lot of times with horror movies, like any other movies, their greatness isn't truly appreciated right when they come out.
Right.
I mean, when in the 80s, when Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and all those first came out, it was just shocking. Nobody could believe, what are we watching? And now it's, if you watch those, they're tame compared to what's coming out now.
Like the Hostel and Saw and some of these films.
Saw 17.5.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, and even, there was one movie I watched, it was on Netflix the other night, Vile. You ever seen that one?
No, I don't think I have.
It's basically another one of those torture films. People are all locked in a room.
Well, you know, sources like Netflix are great for going back and finding, I guess you want to call them gems of horror movies and B horror movies. And
Right.
I think, I don't know if you can classify them as horror movies, but I think they have some sci-fi originals on there now.
Oh, God.
Which, yeah.
I have to say that I'm not a huge fan of sci-fi films. I watched them when I was a kid and growing up, and I thought, oh yeah, these are the coolest things. But oh my God, over time, it's just
Like Robo-Croc versus ancient Mega Shark.
Sharknado. I think
1,
things
2,
started
3.
to go downhill with that.
At least now they're gotten to the point where they know they're campy, whereas at the beginning they were trying to take themselves seriously.
Yes. Oh, completely. I think the biggest thing for me is, I have to give them some credit because they're original.
They are.
They're being very, very
Don't know
original.
how they sit down and come up with these ideas for movies, or like what was the one, Piranhaconda. I mean, who would have thought of doing
Never even heard that one.
it was an anaconda with a piranha head on it. So it was.
As if anacondas aren't
Exactly.
terrifying enough. Not, I love snakes, but snakes are good.
No, snakes are not good. My big phobia is spiders. So anything with spiders is completely, yeah.
I think for me it's spiders and heights. Those are my two biggest fears.
Heights don't bother me so much as long as I'm in control.
Okay.
If I'm up somewhere and I have no control over what's going on, then yeah. Like skydiving, I could never do it, but yeah.
Free falling, man.
But,
Like break out the acoustic. Anyway.
yeah. We digressed a little bit, but hopefully you've enjoyed this first edition of Real Dudes. We hope to continue to do these for you every week. We'll be highlighting either genres of movies, such as, like we did today, horror movies, rock and roll movies, sports movies. We could even do TV shows, current, past, future. If you have any ideas for a movie you'd like us to sit down and review, let us know.
I'm Shaun Friedrichsen.
And I'm Trevor Gill. Thanks for tuning in to Real Dudes.